the Linux distro community, distrowatch.com, and Spatry's Cup of Linux presents the Linux Zoo Crew. If you would like to catch some of my back episodes, listen to this show live as it's being recorded, or subscribe to my RSS feed, please point your web browser to youtube.com/user/LinuxSpatry. In the podcast section, you will find information attached to each Zoo Crew episode in the show notes. We would like to thank DistroWatch for mirroring the Zoo Crew podcasts. DistroWatch, your one-stop solution for distributions and information. Stop by distrowatch.com and give them your support. Alright, welcome to yet another fabulous Linux Zoo Crew, and today on the Zoo we have a special guest for you guys. We have Glen MacArthur, the developer of AV Linux, and we have Raven from Australia joining us on the show tonight. But before we begin tonight's topic, I'd like to share with you a few words from our founder, Voltam.
Hi, I'm Voltam, founder of the Linux Distro community. The Linux Distro community is a place for people to hang out and discuss Linux, Linux distros, software, and open source. The Linux Distro community is a community funded by its members for its members. We are a friendly, welcoming community that encourages people who use Linux operating systems and software to share their passion and knowledge with other people. We believe that when people share information freely, everyone benefits. We'd love to see you become a part of the Linux Distro community. You can voice chat with us on Mumble or text chat with us in IRC. Head over to linuxdistrocommunity.com for details. Join in today in the sharing of knowledge and the freedom that a Linux operating system gives people. Thank you.
All right, and as I said, we have Glen, with the developer of AV Linux, and let me tell you, Glen, I'm really liking what I saw here. I'm sure you've already had a chance to see my review on your distribution, and this is a multimedia operating system done right. Welcome to the show. We're happy to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, now, my friend Raven suggested that I try AV Linux, and this was like, what, 2 months ago, Raven? Something like that?
Exactly right, and yep, exactly right, and fantastic multimedia distro, by the way, I must say. The cream of the crop, in my opinion. Yeah,
now, you're still actually running that on one of your main systems, because I know you have a production studio.
Yes, that's exactly right. I've got an audio production studio here at home, and even though I'm not currently working in the radio industry at this moment of time, I sort of am doing quite a bit of freelance audio production work in that respect, and I'm using AV Linux for that area of work full time basically at the moment.
Well, that's great to hear. That's what it's for.
That's exactly right.
Now, Glen, I understand. Now, this is version 6 of AV Linux, and obviously I haven't been using, I've only been using Linux now for a year and a half. Well, actually, I tried it years ago when it was new, but I made that final switch a year and a half ago. And so when I got exposed to this, I was really excited about it because I'm a multimedia enthusiast myself, and I'm always looking for different applications that I can try out, see what I'm going to like, and that sort of thing. What gave you the idea to start up your own Linux distribution? I know you're a musician yourself. You play the guitar, that sort of thing. What prompted you to create this distribution?
Well, I became interested in Linux about 2006, and the main thing I used computers for was music production, and I was using Ardour at the time, Ardour, the digital audio workstation, and there obviously there's been some multimedia distributions out there before. 64 Studio was a big one. There was an OpenSUSE one named JackLab, and I had used them, and they were kind of winding down their development. For different reasons, they were just kind of phasing out. So I basically put my own system together with Ubuntu Gutsy at the time, and I really liked how it worked, actually, and I found that Ardour pretty much did all the things I wanted to do, but I did find that, a lot of the multimedia packaging in the major distros was kind of lagging behind, so I started, compiling my own latest versions, and I learned to use Tony Brzezinski's RemasterSys program to basically, customize your own ISO and make it. And so I kind of randomly got something together that worked pretty good, and my wife had some web space on her web server, so I uploaded it and said, give this a try, and people seem to like it.
Excellent. Now, your latest release is called The Now. I absolutely love that, and I kind of laughed when I saw your introduction video. Where did you get the now from?
Well, basically, I'm using Debian Squeeze, which is the current Debian stable. It's been out, I think it's in its second year now, and doing a lot of the customizing I was doing, I was running into a few headaches, a few aging libraries. I was having some difficulties getting some things up and running, and so it was taking a lot of extra time, and it was some frustrating conundrums I was getting myself into. So when I finally got AV Linux 6 done, I just kind of thought, I'm just going to use this as it is for quite a while, because, that being the now, that instead of worrying about the next update or worrying about the next version, let's just use it as it is now. And that's kind of the tongue-in-cheek term I came up to release it with that name.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool because, when I was doing the introduction for the show, I'm always well known on my shows for saying right now on Spatry's Cup of Linux, and I saw the now, and I'm like, maybe I can integrate this into the intro. It just made me laugh when I saw that. Now, there has been some fear, uncertainty, and doubt concerning this AV Linux being the last release. Is there any truth to that? Do you plan on any future development, or do you plan on just leaving it as is for right now and then maybe revisiting it at a later time?
I think what you said at the end there is probably the most accurate. With the extra development time it takes to kind of get everything playing nice together and working together, I have a family, I have a business, I'm a middle-aged guy. I just can't really. I can't really justify the amount of time that AV Linux is taking right now. So basically, I want to provide, basically a complete working system with most of the bugs figured out, and I just want to put it out there as is. I'm still going to offer a year of tech support on the forums, and I'm basically putting it out there as, this is what it is. Everything works together, and if you can accept that, I think you're going to enjoy it. And I do recommend Dream Studio, Ubuntu Studio, KX Studio are some great products that are also out there. They're really cutting edge kind of products, and if that's more your thing, if you're more interested in updates than actually using what's there, by all means, I welcome people to do what they need to do to get the most out of it.
Now, Glenn, it's funny that you mentioned that because I had one of my viewers, and actually since I've done the review, there has been roughly about 530 views in the past 21 hours since my review of your operating system went up. And I had somebody ask, how would you say that your distribution is different or at least compares to like the Dream Studios or the Ubuntu Studios that are out there?
I think Dream Studio is quite similar. Ubuntu Studio, I think, is more kind of it's a great product, don't get me wrong. It doesn't have a lot of specialization in it as far as people who are into multimedia on any platform, I don't care if it's Linux or whatever, are generally people that are quite discerning and know very much what they want, and they're very into the little configuration tweaks and all that kind of stuff. So I would say Ubuntu Studio maybe doesn't go down that road far enough for some people. And also we've got some things going on like having the RT init as far as the real-time prioritization switched on in the kernel by default, having our IRQ threading switched on by default, all that kind of stuff that Ubuntu Studio doesn't go. So I think we have some more performance tweaks and certainly some more specialized applications. And my deal with AV Linux is to make it complete. So if you live in a developing country, you don't have to have an internet connection to install it and have everything's going to be there that you need to use. So, and Ubuntu Studio isn't really focused on that sort of demographic. They want to give you a basic helping of what it's capable of, and then you're going to of course use the package manager to add other stuff. So I guess that would be the major difference. Is I'm trying to make something complete right out of the box, and I think I'm a little more specialized, especially in the audio performance tweaks.
Not only that, but because this is built on Debian stable, this is something that somebody can download and use and get plenty of years of use out of this without having to update it. Now, I don't know if you had a chance to watch the full review that I put up, but I had mentioned, and I was incorrect in saying that I was using 50% of my CPU. I was actually using 65% of my CPU in a virtual machine, and I couldn't believe how responsive it was. It was fast and snappy, and this was using the LXDE user interface, and usually when I'm looking at some distributions in a virtual machine, sometimes the performance is lacking, but in your distribution, I saw a really nice performance hit. I thought that was really nice. Now, I know Raven has some questions he would like to ask you, so I'm going to go ahead and pass the microphone over to him.
Not a problem. Yeah, Glenn. One of my questions is in regards to the IQ threading kernel, mate, or the customised kernel that AV Linux comes with. I understand it's an i686 kernel 30.16. Is this kernel basically patched and tweaked to meet the requirements of the actual usability of the distro, as well as I understand there's a PAE available?
Yeah, that's right. And I'll give props here to Trulin Martin, who is a guy on the AV Linux forum, who was an AV Linux user who does our kernels. He's been doing them for about a year now. And the kernels aren't heavily patched performance-wise, like, we're not using BFS and a lot of those kinds of things. We kind of more focus on adding drivers, for instance, the M-Audio Fast Track Pro USB audio device, which is pretty common. We're patched for that. Our latest kernel in AV Linux 6 is actually 3.0.36, and we have the USB 3 support in there, so the EHCI driver is patched into there. Most of the performance stuff is available ever since the 3.0 series, actually a little bit prior to that. That stuff's all available, waiting in the kernel for anyone to use, and it's basically a matter of calling some boot switches when you boot the machine to get the most of benefit as far as the performance goes.
Right, and I also understand that this distro is also aimed at keeping the older spec computers alive as in terms of production as well. I must say I've been using AV Linux now for quite some time, both in audio and music production, because I used to be a nightclub DJ on the side and do a lot of remixing and stuff like that. And I must say, in terms of what I use AV Linux for, what's the most important thing to me basically is stability rather than bleeding edge. And at the end of the day, my old saying goes that if it works, it works. You know what I mean? And it certainly does. I've got it running now currently on a machine that's about 5 years old, and it is just it's quick, snappy, very responsive, and I'm really enjoying AV Linux to what it is to this day. Did you plan on maybe looking at releasing a 64-bit version, say beforehand? You know what I mean, like going back like a year or two ago, when AV Linux was just starting to become what it is today?
No, and I'll kind of touch on that briefly. And thank you for noticing actually about the lower spec older machines, because that's a very important thing to me. AV Linux, I kind of want, in some ways, I wanted to turn a machine into kind of an appliance, so kind of an audio video editing appliance. And we have so many old machines sitting out there that can't run Windows 7, can't run Windows Vista, but are completely viable machines. And I don't want to see them going in a tech dump in rural China or something like that. I saw a horrifying show on 60 Minutes a few years ago about where our tech garbage goes. And so I appreciate you mentioning that, because that kind of is a mandate as well with the light desktop. Let's keep these old machines going. If you have an extra machine out in the garage or in the basement, make a recording studio out of it. Just use it for that. Don't throw it out. As far as 64-bit, that's something I've never been terribly interested in, because we do have the PAE option. So if you have a newer machine with more RAM, you can utilize it with our optional PAE kernels, as well as some of the wine-dependent stuff like Windows VST plugins and stuff like that. I won't say now that they don't work on 64-bit Linux, but that was a bit of a pass with a push a couple of years ago to get that all working smoothly, and it just works naturally very well. We've got 32-bit Windows plugins, so they're going to work very nicely on a 32-bit Linux system. Another thing is very few applications in my experience, other than maybe Blender, are really that optimized for that you can see a difference in 64 or 32-bit. For instance, the amount of audio tracks you can run, or the how fast your transcoder, how many frames per second you can do. Quite often, 64 versus 32-bit, there's really no appreciable difference in those kinds of things. So that's why my focus has kind of stayed with older machines, 32-bit, and offering the PAE option for those who may want to use more RAM.
Right, I also understand, sorry about the delay there, I also understand that, I've actually been using, as I said, AV Linux now for quite some time to do with audio production. Now, when I was involved with the small community-based radio station that we have got here where I live in Australia, which is on the mid-north coast of New South Wales, about 6 hours north of Sydney, I was actually working for a community radio station at that time, and the audio production software and the operating system that we're using at that time was proprietary. And basically basically, I found out about AB Linux through just doing some Googling of multimedia Linux distributions, and I came across AB Linux whilst doing a search. So I looked up on your website here and read some more information about it, and I thought to myself, well, okay, yeah, I'll download a copy and see how it runs. And I was quite impressed, I must say. Its usability plus its productivity compared to the proprietary side of multimedia distros, multimedia applications out there in software. In my opinion, I could say that AV Linux, in that respect, does just about exactly the same as what you would do with your proprietary software side of things to do with audio production and multimedia.
Well, thanks very much for saying that. I really appreciate that. And as far as I guess on the proprietary side of things, I mean, something a lot of people don't realize is there are some commercial Linux applications out there for multimedia, and I mean, I'm not afraid to. I mean, I love open source, but I'm not a terribly political open source user. So we do offer some of the proprietary commercial options. We have great Linux DSP audio plugins. This version we have Harrison's Mixbus, which is based on Ardour. We have Renoise. We have the Loomer plugins. So, I mean, I think a lot of the Linux world doesn't know about these things, and they're all present there in the demo versions. Of course, you can uninstall them if you don't want them. You don't have to take them. But I think, I think Linux, that is a place where we can see some growth, and some of these commercial sequencers and stuff I think will attract some of the audio hardware people as well to take a little more of an active interest in providing their driver source for some of the interfaces and stuff for Linux users. So I mean, I appreciate what you're saying, and I think we've got some great open source stuff that's completely on par with anything proprietary out there, but I'm not afraid of showing people the proprietary side of things in Linux as it pertains to Linux audio anyway.
Yeah, that's understandable. I understand that fully. Yeah, for example, when you're talking about proprietary, as in terms of proprietary with, comparing that to open source, to do with, like, for example, Audacity, we were using a proprietary software product at that moment in time. Before we found out about AB Linux, we were using a combination of Audition and Pro Tools, and it was just costing the station money. And I thought to myself, well, the whole idea of coming up with an idea to save the station money was to look for an open source alternative, and AV Linux fit the bill. And the combination of using the software that comes with AV Linux, for example, Audacity and a couple of other tools, basically met the requirements of putting Audition and Pro Tools together, and its usability was just absolutely just awesome and amazing. I'll pass the microphone over to Svatry, and yeah.
Okay, well, the thing is, multimedia can be done quite well in Linux, and I mean, I've experienced this over the past year and a half of using Linux full-time now. We have the Acadian Live that does a magnificent job now, and you've actually included several different video editors, and that's more of my niche. I like playing around with and chopping up video and that sort of thing. And you've got tons of audio tools. I've had a chance to page through and look at a number of them, and I'm going to keep this installed for a while because there are additional applications that I still haven't even had a chance to explore yet. It's really amazing what you have put together here, and I really like the performance out of this. So, and the fact that Raven can even get this running on an older 5-year-old computer and running well, I mean, that's absolutely magnificent. Now, I did have one of my viewers ask me about because he was running this on a screen that has a very high resolution, and he can't seem to resize the mouse cursor. Do you have a solution for this gentleman?
Actually, LXD, one of the things about the minimal desktops or the light desktops is they don't have as many options, especially in its areas like that where you kind of notice the difference between something like GNOME and LXDE. The only option I can offer, and I don't have the manual open here, in the AV Linux manual, there is a section on changing. It's basically changing the mouse cursor. So it comes with a couple of optional mouse cursors you can use there. There's one, it's kind of an oldie but goodie called Pulse Glass, which is a little larger, quite a bit larger cursor. And if he just wants to look in the manual, it explains the process there. It's not a kind of, it's a little bit of a configuration thing to do it in LXDE. There's not a nice little graphical utility to make it easy, but it's explained pretty in depth in the manual. And I think hopefully just by selecting another cursor, hopefully he can get what he wants.
Now, would it be safe to say that I could maybe go on gnomelook.org, download an extra large cursor, extract it to where my theme folder is, and just have it point to that?
Absolutely, yeah. I was just going to mention that, any of those sites that have the optional theme stuff, you should be able to find something else to use, and absolutely just follow the instructions in the manual and make sure you extract it to the same place, and it should be good.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, I will say this. You have made a magnificent contribution to the community, Glenn, and there are a lot of people out there that just cannot thank you enough for this well-put-together operating system. And I know this is something that people will get many, many years of use out of. Raven, do you have any other questions? I'm all out of questions myself, and I've asked people on IRC to post their questions. Apparently, they've got an earful because I don't see any questions coming up here.
Yes, I do. Just in regards to AV Linux and for newcomers to Linux and multimedia out there, as in terms of getting the most out of AV Linux, its usability and finding out about what the software does and how to use it in AV Linux. I understand you've got a how-to section in the AV Linux forums.
Yeah, we do actually have a how-to section. It's more, I guess, relates to kind of out-of-the-ordinary things, or, excuse me, if you wanted to get a certain piece of software up and running that, wasn't in the repositories, or if you have a certain piece of hardware. But I've tried to, in the manual and in the screencasts I've done with the release, kind of go over some stuff in a little greater detail for new people, because I remember when I was new at it, I mean, it's a lot of overwhelming stuff to learn all at once.
And the thing is, you did take a lot of time to put together a nice PDF document. I pointed that out in the review, showing that, and there are pictures and everything along with the text to guide the newcomer through using the operating system. And, that's something that's lacking in a lot of distributions that are out there. A lot of these distributions aren't even releasing any documentation. So I think it's great that you decided to include that.
Well, thanks. I mean, the manual is kind of murder to do. It takes a long time, as you know. Obviously, you've been doing a lot of detailed work in your productions and everything else, and none of this stuff. We have easy ways of doing it, but it consumes a lot of time. So, about version 3, I decided I think I'm going to need to get some documentation, because a lot of new people need a little more detail than just booting up the desktop and knowing what to do, for sure. So I appreciate you noticing that.
Well, I can say this has been an invigorating conversation, Glenn. It has been a real treat to have you on the show today, as well as having you, Raven. Actually, this is your first Zoo Crew with us. I know I've invited you a few times, but I realize you also have a busy schedule, so I really appreciate you taking the time to join us. And I'd also like to thank everybody who is listening to us right now in the listening room. It's always good to have you here. Now, Saturday night, there will not be a show this Saturday, but the following Saturday, we'll be back on our normal Zoo Crew rotation. I'd like to thank all of you for making this show great, as always. And you can also catch this show through my new RSS feed. The link will be in the show notes. Also in the show notes, I will have links to AV Linux, its forums, all the video and information that you would require for those of you who want to learn more about AV Linux. I think this is a wonderful distribution. If you are a multimedia enthusiast, I highly recommend that you give this a try. You'll be doing a big mistake if you don't, because this is well thought out, well put together, and this is truly a work of genius from a musician to all of you creative artists out there. Thank you, all of you, for participating in tonight's show, and we will see you next time. Peace out.
Today's show was brought to you by the Linux Distro Community. Visit us today at linuxdistrocommunity.com and chat with us on Mumble or in IRC on the Freenode network in the Linux Distro Community channel. The Linux Distro Community. Freedom through the sharing of knowledge.